Welcome to Hill of Horrors. Tonight we delve into the twisted world of online dating. Three ordinary people seeking connection found themselves in the grip of unimaginable terror. These are the stories of Tinder matches gone horribly wrong. Are you ready? Let's begin. Meet Emily. An adventurous spirit, Emily loved meeting new people. She matched with Mark, a charming and seemingly genuine guy. They decided to meet for coffee. The date went well, and Emily felt a connection. But after that night, Mark's behavior changed. He began sending her dozens of messages every hour, demanding to know her every move. Emily grew uncomfortable and decided to end things. But Mark wouldn't take no for an answer. He started showing up at her work, her gym, and even outside her apartment. One night, Emily returned home to find her door slightly ajar. Her blood ran cold as she entered and saw Mark standing in her living room, a twisted smile on his face. Mark had broken in, convinced that they were meant to be together. Emily managed to escape and call the police, but the trauma remained. Mark was arrested, but Emily never felt safe again. Sometimes the charming stranger can be the monster hiding in plain sight. Sarah was excited about her date with Jake. His profile showed a handsome man with kind eyes. She had spent hours chatting with him online, sharing stories and dreams, and felt a genuine connection. His photos depicted a man who seemed both approachable and sincere, someone who could easily make her laugh and feel at ease. Sarah had been on several dates before, but none had filled her with such anticipation. She meticulously chose her outfit, wanting to make a good impression. And as she looked at herself in the mirror, she couldn't help but smile, thinking about the evening ahead. They decided to meet at a local bar. When Jake arrived, he was everything his profile promised. He greeted her with a warm smile and a gentle hug, instantly putting her at ease. The bar was cozy, with dim lighting and soft music playing in the background, creating the perfect ambiance for their first meeting. They found a quiet corner and started talking, their conversation flowing effortlessly. Jake was charming, witty, and attentive, making Sarah feel like she was the only person in the room. They laughed over shared jokes and discovered common interests, deepening their connection with each passing moment. They hit it off immediately. But as the night progressed, Jake's demeanor changed. At first it was subtle, a fleeting shadow across his face, a momentary lapse in his smile. Sarah tried to brush it off, attributing it to the dim lighting or perhaps her own imagination, but then his eyes, which had been so warm and inviting, began to grow darker, almost menacing. His once gentle voice took on a harsher tone, and his laughter seemed forced, almost sinister. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine, a sense of unease creeping in. She tried to steer the conversation back to lighter topics, but Jake's responses became increasingly erratic, his behavior more unpredictable. He became erratic, his eyes growing darker. Sarah excused herself to the bathroom. She needed a moment to collect her thoughts, to understand what was happening. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face, trying to shake off the growing sense of dread. She looked at herself in the mirror, her reflection showing a mix of confusion and fear. What had changed? Why was Jake acting so differently? She took a deep breath, deciding to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just having an off moment. She composed herself and headed back to their table, hoping to salvage the evening. When she returned, Jake was gone. Confused, she received a message from him saying he was sorry he couldn't make it tonight and had to cancel. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she read the message. How could he have sent it when they had just been together? She looked around the bar, hoping to catch a glimpse of him, but he was nowhere to be seen. Her mind raced with questions. Had she been imagining things? Was it some kind of prank? She checked the time on her phone, confirming that the message had been sent just moments ago. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She had been with someone, or something, that looked exactly like Jake but wasn't him. Sarah's heart pounded as she realized she had been with someone, or something, that looked exactly like Jake. The thought was terrifying. Who, or what, had she been talking to all evening? She felt a wave of nausea wash over her as she tried to make sense of the situation. The idea of a doppelganger, a double of a living person, was something she had only heard about in stories and myths. But now, it seemed all too real. She felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead as she gathered her belongings, her hands trembling. She needed to get out of there, to find a safe place where she could think clearly. Panicking, she left the bar and hurried home. But the sense of being watched never left her. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified in the stillness of the night. She quickened her pace, her heart racing, constantly looking over her shoulder. The streets, which had always felt familiar and safe, now seemed menacing and full of hidden dangers. She finally reached her apartment, locking the door behind her and leaning against it, trying to catch her breath. But even within the safety of her home, the feeling of being watched persisted. She checked every room, every corner, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Yet the unease remained, gnawing at her. Over the next few weeks, Sarah would catch glimpses of the doppelganger in mirrors and reflections, always watching her with that same dark smile. It started with fleeting moments. A face in the window, a figure in the mirror, always gone when she looked again. She tried to convince herself it was just her imagination, a trick of the light. But the sightings became more frequent, more vivid. She would see the doppelganger in store windows, in the reflection of her phone screen, even in the glass of a picture frame. Each time, the figure wore that same unsettling smile, its eyes cold and dark. Sarah's sleep was plagued by nightmares, her waking hours filled with anxiety and fear. She moved to a new city, hoping to escape the haunting figure. The decision was not easy, but she felt it was the only way to regain her peace of mind. She packed her belongings in a hurry, leaving behind the life she had built, the friends she had made. The new city offered a fresh start, a chance to leave the past behind. For a while, it seemed to work. She found a new job, made new friends, and started to feel like herself again. The doppelganger sightings became less frequent, and she began to hope that she had left it behind for good. But sometimes when she looks into a mirror, she still sees those cold, dark eyes staring back at her. It was as if the doppelganger had followed her, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to reappear. The fear that had once consumed her returned, a constant, gnawing presence. She avoided mirrors as much as possible, but they were everywhere, in bathrooms, in store windows, in the screens of her devices. Each time she caught a glimpse of those dark eyes, she felt a chill run down her spine, a reminder that she could never truly escape. Be careful who you trust, for not everyone is who they seem. The experience had changed Sarah, making her more cautious, more wary of the people she met. She no longer took things at face value, always questioning, always doubting. The world seemed a darker, more dangerous place, filled with hidden threats and unseen dangers. She had learned the hard way that appearances could be deceiving, that the face of a friend could hide the heart of a stranger. And though she tried to move on, to live her life as normally as possible, the memory of the doppelganger was always there, a shadow in the back of her mind, a reminder of the night that changed everything. Michael was thrilled about his date with Lisa. He had been looking forward to this evening for weeks, ever since they first met at the local bookstore. Their connection was instant, and their conversations flowed effortlessly. Michael couldn't believe his luck. Lisa was everything he had ever wanted in a partner. She was beautiful, smart, and they shared many interests. They both loved hiking, reading mystery novels, and had a fascination with the supernatural. Their shared interests made their bond even stronger, and Michael felt like he had finally found someone who truly understood him. They decided to have dinner at her place. Lisa had invited him over, promising a home-cooked meal that would rival any restaurant. Michael was excited, but also a bit nervous. He wanted everything to go perfectly. The evening was perfect until Michael started feeling dizzy and disoriented. They had just finished their main course, and Lisa had poured them both a glass of wine. As they toasted to new beginnings, Michael felt a sudden wave of dizziness wash over him. Lisa offered to let him stay the night, and he gratefully accepted. She led him to a cozy guest room, assuring him that he could rest and feel better in the morning. Michael was too disoriented to argue and collapsed onto the bed. In the middle of the night, Michael awoke to find Lisa standing over him, chanting in an unknown language. The room was dark, and the only light came from the flickering candles that cast eerie shadows on the walls. Michael tried to speak, but his voice wouldn't come out. He was paralyzed, unable to move or scream. Panic set in as he realized he couldn't even lift a finger. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. The chanting grew louder, and Michael felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. Michael realized he had fallen into the hands of a cultist, and the chanting was a ritual to bind his soul. He had heard stories of such things but never believed they could be real. Now, he was living his worst nightmare. As Lisa's chanting grew louder, Michael felt his consciousness slipping away. He fought to stay awake, to break free from the invisible chains that held him down. But the more he struggled, the weaker he became. With a surge of adrenaline, he managed to break free and escape the house, running into the dark, rainy night. The rain pelted his face and the cold air stung his lungs, but he didn't stop. He ran as fast as he could, driven by sheer terror. He never looked back, but he could still hear Lisa's voice in his mind. Her chanting echoed in his ears, a haunting reminder of the horror he had just escaped. Michael's heart pounded in his chest as he ran through the dark, unfamiliar streets. Michael moved far away, but the nightmares persisted. He tried to start a new life in a different city, hoping to leave the past behind. But every night the same nightmare would return, and he would wake up in a cold sweat. Lisa's voice still ringing in his ears. He knew he had narrowly escaped a fate worse than death, but the scars of that night would haunt him forever. Michael sought help from therapists and even tried to delve into the occult to find answers, but nothing could erase the trauma. Sometimes the darkness we seek to escape finds a way to follow us. Michael learned this the hard way. No matter how far he ran or how much he tried to forget, the memory of that night was always lurking in the shadows, waiting to resurface. Michael often found himself reminiscing about the days before he met Lisa. He would look at old photographs, trying to remember the person he used to be, the carefree, happy man who believed in love and trust. But those days felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the darkness that had taken over his life. Determined to understand what had happened to him, Michael began researching cults and ancient rituals. He spent countless hours in libraries, poring over old texts and manuscripts. He hoped to find some clue, some explanation that would help him make sense of his ordeal. His search led him to a mysterious figure who claimed to have knowledge of the dark arts. This person, shrouded in secrecy, offered Michael a chance to confront his fears and possibly rid himself of the curse that haunted him. Desperate for answers, Michael agreed to meet with them. The figure led Michael to a secluded forest where they performed a ritual to cleanse his soul. The air was thick with tension and the forest seemed to come alive with whispers and shadows. Michael felt a strange energy coursing through him as the ritual progressed. For the first time in months, Michael felt a sense of relief and peace. The nightmares that had plagued him began to fade and he no longer heard Lisa's voice in his mind. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Michael started to rebuild his life, slowly but surely. He found joy in the little things again, like walking through the park on a sunny day or reading a good book. The darkness that had once consumed him was now just a distant memory. One day, while sitting in a coffee shop, Michael met someone new. Her name was Emily, and she had a warm smile and kind eyes. They struck up a conversation and Michael felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could find happiness again. As they talked and laughed, Michael realized that he was no longer the same person he had been before. The experience with Lisa had changed him, but it had also made him stronger. He was more cautious, but he was also more appreciative of the good things in life. Michael and Emily began to spend more time together, and their bond grew stronger with each passing day. They shared their hopes and dreams, and Michael found himself opening up to her in ways he never thought possible. One night as they sat together under the stars, Michael felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that the darkness would always be a part of his past, but it no longer had power over him. He had faced his fears and come out stronger on the other side. Michael had learned that even in the darkest of times there is always a glimmer of hope, and with Emily by his side, he knew that he could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The past was behind him, and the future was full of possibilities. As Michael walked hand in hand with Emily into the sunset, he felt a sense of closure. The nightmares were gone, and the haunting memories had faded. He had found love and happiness once again, and he knew that he was finally free from the darkness that had once consumed him. Sometimes the darkness we seek to escape finds a way to follow us, but with courage, resilience, and the support of those we love, we can overcome even the most terrifying of experiences. Michael's journey was a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of hope. These were just 3 stories of Tinder dates that went horribly wrong. Remember, the digital world is full of unknown dangers. Stay vigilant and trust your instincts. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Hill of Horrors for more spine-tingling stories. Sweet dreams, if you can sleep.